Welcome to Wrestling Throne, where we bring you the most incredible stories from the world of professional wrestling. Braun Strowman, the monster among men, a name that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who has witnessed his path of destruction. Today, we're diving deep into the journey of one of the most physically imposing and dominant forces to ever step foot in a WWE ring. This is the story of Braun Strowman, a tale of transformation, dominance, and the unpredictable nature of professional wrestling. Braun Strowman's story begins long before the world knew him by that intimidating name. Before the monster existed, there was Adam Scherr, a young man from Sherrills Ford, North Carolina, who grew up with dreams that extended far beyond the small-town atmosphere. Born on September 6, 1983, Adam was always a big kid, the type who stood out in every crowd not just because of his height but because of his incredible physical presence. From an early age, it was clear that he wasn't built like everyone else. While other kids were playing typical sports, Adam was already showing signs of the giant he would become. His childhood was filled with moments where his size became both an advantage and something that set him apart from his peers. Braun Strowman's journey into athletics began not in wrestling rings but in the world of strongman competitions. Adam Scherr found his calling in lifting impossibly heavy objects, pulling trucks, and competing in events that tested the absolute limits of human strength. He wasn't just participating in these competitions, he was excelling at them. The strongman circuit became his home, and he traveled across the country showcasing his raw power. This background would later become instrumental in crafting the character that WWE fans would come to fear and admire. The countless hours spent training, the discipline required to compete at that level, and the mental fortitude developed during those years all contributed to building the foundation of what would eventually become the monster among men. Braun Strowman's transition from strongman competitor to professional wrestler wasn't something that happened overnight. WWE had been scouting talent from various athletic backgrounds, looking for individuals who possessed not just the physical attributes but also the potential to connect with audiences. When WWE scouts saw Adam Scherr, they saw something special. They saw a man who could be molded into something extraordinary, someone who could become a legitimate monster in their roster. In 2013, Adam signed with WWE and was assigned to their developmental territory, which was then known as NXT. This was where his transformation truly began, where Adam Scherr would eventually evolve into Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman's development process is where WWE takes raw talent and refines it into television-ready superstars. For Adam, this meant learning the fundamentals of professional wrestling, understanding the psychology of matches, developing his character work, and adapting his strongman background to fit the wrestling environment. He wasn't immediately thrust into the spotlight. Instead, he spent time honing his craft, working house shows, and learning from veterans who understood the business inside and out. During this period, he worked in various capacities within NXT, preparing for what would become one of the most impactful debuts in recent WWE history. The developmental territory allowed him to make mistakes away from the main cameras, to develop his timing, and to understand how to use his massive frame effectively in a wrestling context. Braun Strowman's real transformation began when WWE decided it was time to bring him to the main roster. In August 2015, during a Monday Night Raw episode, the WWE Universe witnessed something they hadn't quite expected. Bray Wyatt, the eerie leader of the Wyatt family, introduced a new member to his twisted family. The lights went dark, the haunting music played, and when the lights came back on, there stood a massive figure wearing a black sheep mask. This was the debut of Braun Strowman, and from that very first moment, it was clear that WWE had something special on their hands. The atmosphere in the arena changed instantly, and fans could feel that something dangerous had just entered their world. Braun Strowman, as a member of the Wyatt family, served as the muscle, the enforcer who would destroy anyone who stood in the family's way. He didn't need to say much, his actions spoke volumes. The way he tossed opponents around like they weighed nothing, the devastating running splashes, and the sheer intimidation factor made him an instant standout. While Bray Wyatt provided the psychological warfare and Luke Harper brought the brawling intensity, Braun was pure destruction personified. The WWE Universe quickly learned that when Braun Strowman was in the ring, chaos was inevitable. His presence alone changed the dynamic of any match or segment he was involved in. Braun Strowman's time with the Wyatt family was crucial for his development, but being part of a faction, while beneficial for his initial introduction, also meant that his individual potential was somewhat contained. WWE recognized this and began the process of separating him from the Wyatt family. This transition happened gradually, and by mid-2016, Braun Strowman was beginning to work more as a singles competitor. The split wasn't dramatic or filled with betrayal, it was more of a natural evolution where the monster was ready to hunt on his own. WWE started positioning him in squash matches, where he would absolutely demolish local competitors in under a minute, sometimes in mere seconds. Braun Strowman's squash match run became legendary in its own right. Week after week on Monday Night Raw, he would face enhancement talent, and week after week, he would destroy them with frightening ease. These matches served multiple purposes for WWE. They established Braun as an unstoppable force, they gave him television time to develop his character, and they created memorable moments that fans talked about. The running powerslam became his signature finish during this period, and the sound of an opponent crashing to the mat after being launched by Braun became a familiar and terrifying sound. Fans started anticipating these segments, wondering just how quickly Braun would finish his opponent this week. Braun Strowman's character development during this period was fascinating to watch. He began developing his catchphrases, with, "I'm not finished with you," becoming one of the most iconic lines in modern WWE. This phrase usually meant that a single beating wasn't enough, that Braun wanted to inflict more punishment, and that his opponent was about to experience a world of pain. The delivery of this line, combined with his actions, made it genuinely intimidating. Fans knew that when Braun said he wasn't finished, absolute carnage was about to follow. Braun Strowman's feud with Sami Zayn in late 2016 and early 2017 was where he really began to shine as a singles performer. Sami, the ultimate underdog, was repeatedly and mercilessly destroyed by Braun week after week. But what made this feud special was that it wasn't just mindless destruction, there was storytelling involved. Sami kept coming back, kept trying to fight despite being hopelessly outmatched, and Braun kept finding new and creative ways to demolish him. Whether it was throwing Sami into equipment, powerslamming him through tables, or launching him across the ringside area, Braun showed that he could be more than just a monster, he could be a compelling character and an ongoing storyline. Braun Strowman's rivalry with Roman Reigns elevated him to main event status. This feud produced some of the most memorable moments in Monday Night Raw history. The two powerhouses collided repeatedly, and each encounter seemed to up the stakes and the destruction. Braun would attack Roman in parking lots, ambulances, and even flipped an ambulance with Roman inside it. That particular moment, where Braun tipped over the ambulance, became one of the most talked about segments of the year. It was shocking, it was dramatic, and it perfectly encapsulated just how far Braun would go to destroy his opponents. Braun Strowman's ability to create viral moments became one of his defining characteristics. Whether he was flipping vehicles, throwing people into production equipment, or demolishing the ring itself, Braun knew how to create content that people would share and discuss. In an era where social media presence is crucial for a wrestler's success, Braun excelled at giving fans moments they wanted to post, tweet, and talk about. His strength feats weren't just impressive to wrestling fans, they captured mainstream attention and brought eyes to WWE programming from people who might not normally watch. Braun Strowman's evolution included developing his promo skills. Early in his singles run, he was a man of few words, letting his actions do the talking. But as time went on, he became more comfortable on the microphone, delivering promos with intensity and conviction. He developed a character who was intelligent enough to strategize but primal enough to lose control when angered. This balance made him more three-dimensional than your typical monster character. He wasn't just a mindless beast, he was a calculated destroyer who knew exactly what he was doing. Braun Strowman's participation in marquee matches became more frequent as his stock rose. He was inserted into championship matches, competed in main events of pay-per-views, and became one of Raw's most reliable performers. His match quality improved significantly as he worked with various opponents who could bring different things out of him. Working with technical wrestlers taught him how to slow down and sell, working with high flyers showed him how to be a base for spectacular moves, and working with fellow big men created the kind of hard-hitting battles that fans craved. Braun Strowman's journey to championship gold was an interesting one. Despite being positioned as a top guy, his first championship in WWE didn't come as quickly as some might have expected. He competed for various titles, came close multiple times, but the big one eluded him. This actually worked in his favor narratively, as it built anticipation for when he would finally capture gold. WWE used this to create storylines where Braun's frustration grew, where he became more destructive because he felt he wasn't getting the opportunities he deserved. Braun Strowman's tag team run with a 10-year-old named Nicholas at WrestleMania 34 was one of the most unexpected and talked about moments in WrestleMania history. In a match for the Raw Tag Team Championships, Braun chose a random child from the audience named Nicholas to be his partner. They won the titles in what was essentially a handicap match, with Braun doing all the work. While this moment was polarizing among fans, it perfectly illustrated Braun's character at that time. He was so dominant that he could win tag team gold with a child as his partner, and he didn't care what anyone thought about it. The audacity of the moment, the sheer absurdity combined with Braun's serious treatment of it, made it memorable. Braun Strowman's involvement in unique match types showcased his versatility. The greatest Royal Rumble saw him participate in the largest Royal Rumble match ever. Money in the Bank ladder matches tested his ability to navigate the chaotic multi-person environment while incorporating his strength in creative ways. Last Man Standing matches allowed him to engage in the kind of brutal, falls count anywhere brawls that suited his character perfectly. Each match type brought out different aspects of his abilities and kept his character fresh. Braun Strowman's alliance with various partners throughout his career showed different sides of his character. When he teamed with a child, it was comedic yet dominant. When he worked with other monsters, it created an unstoppable force. When he had conflicts with management or authority figures, it positioned him as an anti-establishment force. These different dynamics kept his character from becoming stale and allowed WWE to position him in various storylines depending on what the show needed. Braun Strowman finally captured the WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania 36 in 2020. This was during the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic era, where WWE was running shows from their performance center without fans. Braun was inserted into the main event of WrestleMania on short notice after Roman Reigns withdrew from the event. Braun faced Goldberg for the Universal Championship and defeated the legend to capture his first world title in WWE. The moment was bittersweet for many fans because while they were thrilled to see Braun finally win the big one, it happened in an empty building without the roar of the crowd that such a moment deserved. Braun Strowman's championship reign came during one of the most challenging periods in WWE history. Defending his title in the Performance Center, in cinematic matches, and in the WWE Thunderdome with virtual fans was not how anyone envisioned his title run going. Yet Braun adapted to the circumstances and tried to make the best of a difficult situation. He defended his championship against various challengers, including The Miz, Bray Wyatt in his Fiend persona, and others. His feud with The Fiend, Bray Wyatt was particularly notable as it brought Braun back to face his former Wyatt family leader in a twisted storyline. Braun Strowman's loss of the Universal Championship to The Fiend, Bray Wyatt at SummerSlam 2020 in a Falls Count Anywhere match ended his reign after several months. The match was memorable for its brutality and the surreal elements that The Fiend character brought. Roman Reigns returned that same night to attack both men, setting up the next chapter in WWE's storytelling. For Braun, losing the title meant transitioning into a new phase of his career, one where he had proven he could carry a world championship but now needed to find new challenges and directions. Braun Strowman's career took an unexpected turn in June 2021 when WWE released him from his contract. This shocking news sent ripples through the wrestling world. Braun Strowman, who had been positioned as one of WWE's top stars, who had held their top championship, was suddenly no longer with the company. The release was part of a larger round of budget cuts and roster changes that WWE was implementing. For fans and for Braun himself, this was a stunning development that nobody saw coming. The monster among men was suddenly a free agent. Braun Strowman's time away from WWE saw him exploring other opportunities in the wrestling world and beyond. He appeared for various independent promotions, showcasing that his talents were not limited to WWE's style of wrestling. He worked with different companies, faced different opponents, and reminded the wrestling world that he was still a force to be reckoned with. During this period, he also focused on his personal life, his fitness endeavors, and other business ventures. The time away from WWE allowed him to recharge and appreciate what he had accomplished while also proving he could succeed outside of WWE's ecosystem. Braun Strowman's return to WWE in September 2022 was met with tremendous enthusiasm. At Clash at the Castle in Cardiff, Wales, Braun made his shocking return, attacking Bobby Lashley and Tyson Fury in a moment that surprised everyone. The monster among men was back, and his return was handled as a major event. WWE immediately positioned him back in the upper card, showing that they valued what he brought to their programming. His return pop, even though many had speculated it might happen, was still massive, and it was clear that fans had missed his presence. Braun Strowman's second run with WWE has been focused on re-establishing his dominance while also showing growth in his character work. He has been involved in various feuds, championship pursuits, and storylines that have attempted to recapture the magic of his initial rise while also acknowledging that he has evolved as a performer. The challenges of a second run with any company include avoiding repetition, finding fresh opponents and storylines, and maintaining fan interest when the surprise of his presence is gone. Braun has approached these challenges by being willing to adapt his character as needed. Braun Strowman's current status in WWE sees him as a reliable main event talent who can be plugged into various positions on the card. He continues to be one of the most physically imposing figures in wrestling, and his experience has made him a better overall performer. The years have taught him how to pace his matches better, how to work with different opponent sizes and styles, and how to maximize the impact of his signature spots. While he may not always be in the championship picture, his presence elevates whatever program he's involved in. Braun Strowman's legacy in professional wrestling is still being written, but several things are already clear. He proved that WWE could still create legitimate monster characters in the modern era. He showed that size and strength, when combined with character work and proper booking, could capture audience attention even in an era where smaller, more athletic wrestlers were becoming the norm. His viral moments demonstrated understanding of what modern audiences respond to and how to create content that extends beyond traditional wrestling fans. His willingness to adapt to different situations, from working with legends to children to main event stars, showed versatility that not all big men possess. Braun Strowman's influence can be seen in how WWE books powerhouse characters today. The template he helped establish, combining impressive physical feats with character development and memorable segments, has been applied to other talents. His success showed that there's still a place for the larger-than-life characters that wrestling was built on, even as the industry evolves. Young wrestlers who possess similar physical attributes look to Braun's career as a roadmap for how to maximize their potential and become more than just their size. Braun Strowman's journey from Adam Scherr the Strongman to the monster among men is a testament to hard work, adaptability, and seizing opportunities. Not every massive athlete who comes to WWE succeeds. Many have failed to connect with audiences or develop beyond being just big. Braun succeeded because he was willing to learn, willing to put in the work to improve all aspects of his performance, and willing to fully commit to his character. The moments he created, from flipping ambulances to winning championships, will be remembered as highlights of their respective eras in WWE. Braun Strowman represents a particular type of wrestling attraction that will always have value. In an industry where physiques vary dramatically and styles range from technical to hardcore to high-flying, there will always be room for the powerhouse who can do things that others physically cannot. Braun filled that role better than most, and his career demonstrates the importance of such characters in creating a diverse and interesting wrestling product. His matches provided spectacle, his segments created memorable television, and his presence added legitimacy to championship pictures and main event scenes. Braun Strowman's story is also one of resilience and adaptation. Being released from WWE could have been the end of his career at that level, but instead, he used it as motivation. He proved he could work elsewhere, maintained his conditioning and skills, and positioned himself for a return that WWE ultimately wanted to make happen. This resilience is an important part of his legacy, showing younger wrestlers that setbacks don't have to be permanent and that opportunities can come again if you're prepared when they do. Braun Strowman's relationship with WWE fans has been interesting to observe. He's been cheered as a dominant force, booed when positioned against fan favorites, and generally received strong reactions regardless of his alignment. The monster among men character is versatile enough to work as either hero or villain, depending on who he's facing and how he's positioned. This versatility has extended his career and kept him relevant through multiple roster changes and creative direction shifts. Fans respect his work, appreciate the effort he puts into his performances, and recognize him as someone who consistently delivers. Braun Strowman continues to evolve as we speak, continuing to create moments and competing at the highest levels of professional wrestling. His journey isn't finished, and there are undoubtedly more chapters to be written in his story. Whether it's more championship reigns, more legendary feuds, or more viral moments that capture mainstream attention, Braun has shown he's capable of all of it. The monster among men remains a force in wrestling, and as long as he continues to perform, he'll continue to be a significant presence in whatever company he works for. From the strongman competitions in small venues to the main event of WrestleMania, from being a silent enforcer in the Wyatt family to becoming a world champion in his own right, from being released and having to prove himself all over again to returning triumphantly, Braun Strowman's career has been nothing short of remarkable. His story is one of transformation, determination, and the power of believing in yourself even when the path isn't clear. The young man from North Carolina who was always bigger than everyone else found a way to turn that difference into an advantage, to become not just another big guy but the monster among men. His legacy in professional wrestling is secure, but his story continues to unfold, and fans eagerly anticipate what destructive, memorable moments Braun Strowman will create next. Thank you for joining us on Wrestling Throne as we explored the incredible journey of Braun Strowman. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of wrestling's most dominant forces, make sure to follow, subscribe, and like for more amazing wrestling stories and content.